Hi. If you've got a taste for some old world food with kind of a contemporary spin, then today's your lucky day. We're going to make a pappardelle pasta with a bolognese, but we're going to take out some of the meat and replace it with beans. Stay tuned. First thing I want to do is I want to brown the mushrooms. So get the pan nice and hot. I've got the mushrooms cut up small. Keep in mind they're mostly water, so they'll shrink down. And in goes some olive oil. And when that oil is hot, and I can see that it's hot, it's kind of creeping around the pan, I'm going to add the mushrooms. Now, mushrooms are kind of thirsty. They will drink all that oil up right away, but as they begin to break down a little bit, they'll give some of the oil back. So don't worry too much if the oil disappears. Already it's coming back out. With a big pan like this, I can let a lot of this moisture evaporate. If I have a pan that's too small, sometimes what you'll see is that the water will start to build up, and you have no choice but to let that water reduce until it's gone, and then browning can begin. But here, already I'm seeing a little bit of color. Okay. Now, oftentimes in bolognese, they use different kinds of meat, sometimes 2-3 different kinds of meat. I am using pork and veal here. This is what I had on hand. So I'm going to put some pork in and a little bit of veal as well. And I'll break that up so that we can begin to brown that as well. When you use multiple meats like this, it gives you more complexity in the finished dish. So there's a richness to pork that veal doesn't have, but veal has a lot of gelatin, so there's a mouthfeel that comes along with it. Add to that the savory flavor of the mushrooms, and just so we don't miss it, we're going to add the meaty texture of those beans, and we'll have a great dish here. Okay, so the meat is beginning to brown. It looks pretty nice. If there's a lot of excess fat, certainly you can pour some off, but some amount of fat is a good thing. The only thing you really need to do here is just scrape any of the brown that clings to the bottom of the pan. You don't want that to burn because that is delicious flavor. So just keep after it. The next step for us, I'm going to add some onions. I'm going to add some carrots and celery. And I'm going to add a couple of cloves of garlic. And I'm not even going to chop them up. I'm just going to take and smash them so that they can soften as this dish continues to cook. Now, I want to cook this until the onions are translucent and the other vegetables have gotten soft. I would say we're looking at maybe another 3 or 4 minutes. All right, the vegetables are tender right now, the onions translucent, the carrots have softened a little bit. I want to add some tomato to this pan, and I've got tomato paste here. Tomato paste can taste a little bit raw, so what I want to do is actually put it into the pan and cook it until the color darkens just a little bit. It turns a little bit brickish, not the bright red that you see of the raw tomato paste, but sort of a brownish red. And that will give me a depth of flavor that is undeniable, and it will take some of that raw flavor out. The only thing, as I said, you want to be careful with, don't let that flavor burn on the bottom of the pan. If it threatens to burn, what you need to do is deglaze it. Just by introducing some liquid. I'm going to use red wine here. And every place I see that brown fond, I'm just going to scrape it clean. And I know from a chef's perspective then that I've captured that flavor. I haven't wasted it. I haven't washed it off the pan, but it stayed in the dish. I've got a big piece of rosemary, and I like to just put it in right on the stem, and then I'll pluck it out later on. I'm going to add just a couple of bay leaves. Put those in there as well. A little bit of salt, I think, is appropriate at this point. pepper, or if you like it spicy, I've got some pepper flakes here that you can add a few. You can always add more, you can't take them out, so just be careful. And then finally, I'm going to put some veal stock or beef stock in there. And if any of those vegetables are not completely cooked, they will be soon. Now, while that continues to cook, I'm going to work a little magic on this dish by taking some beans. Kidney beans, I think, are entirely appropriate, sort of a dark color, larger size. It looks a little bit like the meat that's in there already. I'm going to take those kidney beans and just add them to the mix. And two things will happen. One, the starch of the beans will help absorb and tighten some of that liquid. And the other is I've taken a smaller amount of meat and I've stretched it with the flavor of the mushrooms and the wine and the tomatoes, so on and so forth. Once you achieve sort of a sauce-like consistency here, this is almost done. It might surprise you, but in Italy, where they make this dish, oftentimes they'll introduce towards the end a little bit of dairy. And I'm going to do that. I've got some, this is creme fraiche. You could use heavy cream as well. And what this will do is it'll sort of round out the flavors, make them seem a little bit richer. I'm looking at this point for a nice sauce-like consistency. If you can afford the time, my recommendation would be to take this off the heat, let it sit for an hour or so. It's pretty much done right now. One last little bit of seasoning. I want to taste it one last time. And sometimes when you take meat away and replace it with beans or mushrooms, you lose savory flavor. So I oftentimes finish this with a little bit of Parmesan cheese that I actually stir into the sauce that gives me some savory flavor. There's our rosemary. We'll take that out. I've got some pasta right here that goes right into boiling salted water to warm up. So I'm going to add this sauce in two parts. The first part, I'm actually going to mix with the pasta so that it's all pretty well coated. And then I'll make a little bit of a nest in the middle, and we'll add some more of the pasta sauce. And we'll top it off with some grated Parmesan and some parsley. This is really a delicious pasta. I would reserve it for the fall and the winter when big flavors are really the thing. So, pappardelle pasta with a bolognese that's got a new twist on it that makes it healthier and just as tasty. Try it, see what you think.